Here you go. Yeah. 19 Utes. That's the nothing personal word of the day. It is Monday, July 8th, 2024. Welcome back. Mondays after a holiday long weekend. Rough. Happy to be here in Miami, getting ready to do the Levitard show with Dominique and Pablo and the gang at 9 o'clock live. We are live on the Nothing Personal with David Samson YouTube channel. Spent the weekend thinking about baseball and LeBron. And that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to start with some baseball things. Here's the thing about All-Star games. MLB All-Star games fun to watch. It's coming up. It's a week from tomorrow in Arlington. When you're hosting the All-Star game, you want a starter desperately. You want the fans to come and cheer their own player. We spent months, forget getting ready for the All-Star game, that's years, months working on getting a starter for the All-Star game that we hosted in Miami in 17. It's done through PR. It's done through Chicago-style voting. It's done in conjunction with everybody in baseball because it's better when there's a home team starter. Of course, the Rangers have zero. Zero. They did get 2 All-Stars, though. The problem is that fans will come to the game. They don't get the regular tickets. MLB takes over the whole stadium. They allocate tickets back to the home team. It's actually a big pain in the neck for teams with large season ticket holder bases. With a small season ticket holder base, you can pretty much make everybody happy. With a large season ticket holder base, it can be extremely, extremely rough when an All-Star game comes to town. There's some cities in the NBA that don't even want to bid for All-Star games because A, you spend money, which we did, and B, your clients are angry. But on the other hand, it's so cool. You walk into the clubhouse and all the different name lockers are all of these amazing legacy players. This year in Arlington, it's going to feel different. Arlington has hosted amazing things since it opened, Globe Life Field. You remember that during COVID, it was the first season of that ballpark. They hosted, the World Series with no or very few fans in 20. Then they hosted the actual World Series last year because they won it, so they were in it. And now they're hosting the All-Star game. What a great job for that new ballpark. Very happy for them. Baseball's doing something now purposeful. When I say 19 Utes, other than channeling Herman Munster or talking about Adnan and Pesci and Scorsese, I'm talking about the youth movement in baseball. It's something that media people love to say. There's never been a better time for young baseball players. It's such absolute horse hockey because if you go back to each year, of course, people in media don't think of it that way, but when you go back each year, it's always the same thing. Look at this class of young players. These guys are performing. It's like going into an owner's meeting and hearing the same thing, which is code word for stop overpaying veterans. Let the pre-arbitration players shine. 19 All-Stars under the age of 27. It used to be a big deal to be an All-Star. Now we're going to start the process of who can't play, who the replacements are. You got all the pitchers named yesterday, AL and NL, but some of the starting pitchers who start on Sunday, which is this coming Sunday, which is the final game before the All-Star break, they are not eligible to pitch during the All-Star game under an agreement with the union. Therefore, under another agreement with the union, they get taken off the team, but still counted as an All-Star, and a replacement pitcher gets named to the team. They get the All-Star bonus. They get announced. They are eligible to play. They get to use it during arbitration or free agency that they're an All-Star. Quick little note, front offices do not focus on all-star appearances the way the media does. Hey, this man is having Salvador Perez is having his 9th all-star appearance. Jose Altuve in his 9th all-star appearance. They're the most this year. No one's double digit. They're the most with 9. The contract offers that we make to players are not based on all-stars because every team has to get represented. So before you're jumping for joy that your guy on your team is an all-star, keep in mind every team is represented. So when you're putting the puzzle together, if the only possible player on your team is a relief pitcher because the team stinks and everyone else stinks, then you put the relief pitcher on. It's exciting for the relief pitcher. That counts as a relief pitcher, which means a more worthy relief pitcher is not going to make the team. And so you get a snub list. Don't worry, all the snubs get named anyway, just after the fact. And then at the end of the day, no one remembers anyway because you're still considered an all-star. I would say this year the lead story has to be Paul Skenes, the pitcher for the Pittsburgh Pirates. Mets fans, raise your hand. Say hallelujah with me. He kicked your bass. What was it, Coca? You weren't watching. 14-2. Skenes is shoving it. I think his ERA is down to 2.12, which is approximately 0.88 away from my wait to see Price is Right threshold. Paul Skenes has performed in a way that no one expected. Don't tell me that everyone said when he would come up, he'd dominate like this. Don't tell me that people expected him to be an all-star and maybe even start the game. Why? It's never happened, ever, that the number 1 overall pick in the draft the very next year is an all-star. Never happened. I'm happy for Skenes. It's very cool. I don't see what the issue is. I'm happy for Elly De La Cruz. He's an exciting player to watch, toiling in Cincinnati. You should watch if you can. That's a Pittsburgh player and a Cincy player are my first 2 mentions. Wait, I may have mentioned a Royals player as well. That's Cincy. Wow. This has to be baseball's dream. Don't worry, we got the broadcast schedule. We're back to Yankees Red Sox after the break. The Phillies have 7 all-stars. It should be. They're the best team in baseball. The Guardians have 5 all-stars, including a former first-round pick of mine that I 4869. The Guardians have 5 all-stars, including a first pick of mine who unceremoniously got traded away. Sorry, Josh. It was such a good trade with the Padres. Josh Naylor's now on the Guardians, doing really well. Dodgers, 5 straight years, 5 all-stars. They've got stars. They've got stars upon theirs. They just don't have rings. Well, they've got the COVID ring, but that's it. There's got to be conversion. It's fun. I don't want to poo-poo the All-Star game. I love watching it. I love the Derby. Pete Alonso just accepted to participate in the Home Run Derby, bringing some star New York East Coast power to the Derby when Soto and Judge and Stanton are OU triple T. Alonso always has fun with it. He always is good for ratings. It's just a positive that the polar bear is going to participate. The Mets have been playing obviously better, but still sort of playing themselves in contention. But I want to talk about, if you don't mind, just for a quick sec for all you Yankee fans. Are you panicked? Are you worried about Brian Cashman's job? Are you worried about Aaron Boone and whether or not he's on it? Should he have done more for the national anthem standoff? Should he have run on the field? Ripped his players off the field? Aaron Boone's got bigger fish to fry. Bigger pork to roast? What do you do? What do you do on July 4th when you barbecue? Is it steak and burgers and dogs? The Yankees are the worst team in baseball. You heard it. Since June 13th, the Yankees are the worst team in baseball. That's not like for a week. We're a week away from that being a month. They are 6-16. They got swept by De La Cruz's Reds. They move on to play the Red Sox because, of course, they do. But don't worry. I'm sure you saw all of those games. I think there was one on, it was the ESPN Sunday night game. I think it was the Apple TV Friday night game. I assume, though I was traveling, I don't know what I was doing Saturday. Was it the Fox game on Saturday? No way for me to know. And I'm not going to check. Don't need to. You can find your team if you have to. So the Red Sox won another series from the Yankees. They're only 4.5 behind. Do you know the Yankees have not won a series in 7 straight? 0-6-1. When we do our pre-All-Star and post-All-Star plan, as we get to the number of wins we need to get a wild card spot or to even win a division, but my math was always to be a wild card. You never have a stretch of 7 series that you don't win a series. There is no path to October that includes a stretch of 7 series without a victory when you're chasing. When you're being chased, you can stand for a period of mediocrity and rebound from it. When you're chasing, you cannot. The Yankees are both being chased and chasing. In terms of catching the Orioles, where they're already 3 games behind, this sort of stretch is enough to make it that winning the division becomes almost impossible. When you're being chased for the wild card, which they are being chased in the American League, this sort of stretch, no problem. It allows the PR people with the Yankees to give Aaron Boone the talking point, which is, we're fine. Don't worry. There's virtually no reason to panic. What I love about teams when they say don't panic, what it means is that they are having meetings, lots of meetings, lots of panic meetings. A panic meeting with your baseball people goes as follows. We're off the subject, Coke. I'm sorry. But a panic meeting is when you call the GM into your office and you're the team president or the owner, and you say, we've lost our last 7 series. And the GM says, no, we're 0-6-1. And I say, no, we've lost our last 7 series. We are falling further behind blank. What are you going to do starting today to stop this slide? The reason that's a panic meeting, and that's what all owners and presidents say to their baseball people, is that it is preposterous and shows a complete lack of understanding baseball. Do you think the GM can wave his magic wand, or you can fire the manager or yell at the manager, do whatever you're going to do with the manager, and all of a sudden slump ends? The players each day are preparing the exact same way. Every day. They have got a routine. There's more routine in baseball than any other sport. There's more routine among the coaching staff. There's more routine among the trainers, the prep. Everything is like a choreographed ballet. Do you change things up when you've lost 7 in a row? Certain players, do they eat salad instead of chicken? No. Do they shower at different times? There are some players who take batting practice naked. That was always a good one. That's when you know your team's in the crapper, when you see a bunch of nakedness in the batting cage. But what exactly do you do when you had the best starting pitcher in baseball, and therefore you were the best team in baseball, and now your starting pitching stinks and you're the worst team in baseball? What meeting is that? When are people going to realize the correlation between starting pitching and winning exists, and to stop doing all of this ridiculousness with openers and 4-inning pitchers and not letting starters go through the lineup? Starting pitching is the most important part of a winning baseball team. It's been lost in the ether of analytic Ivy League men. But where it's not lost is in the correlation to winning. Oh, don't tell me about winning pitchers. I don't care. Doesn't even matter who the winning pitcher is. Wins. Do you know what we do because of this? It's so bad. I'm sorry, Coca. It's just bad. The reason why in baseball they like to make everything more complicated is to make it seem like you can't do it and they can, which is why they have a job and you don't. You wouldn't understand this. We're not looking at just wins. And then all of a sudden they do a Jim Carrey, Ace Ventura spreadsheet. This is what we're looking at. And then you've got all the people outside the industry who try to copy it on podcasts or on blogs. And they're saying, I analytically looked at the following 59 things, did 690 million simulations, and I realized the Yankees' expected record would not be 6-16. We believe it really was, wait for it, 8-14. The value added there, it knows no ends. Well, in the real world where people actually run baseball teams, wins matter. Pitching matters. The Yankees have the worst starters ERA since this slide began. Coincidence? Am I just trying to find a stat to back up my story, to bolster my case? No. I've been talking about pitching, speed, defense. Have the Yankees stolen a base since I was young? Trying to remember this season. I think they're on the longest streak without a stolen base. No pitching, no base running. No hustle either. They haven't even won back-to-back games in almost a month. That's a team that doesn't make the playoffs. But luckily, we had Juan Soto who explained it all to us. This is what you hear from players. It's exactly what we want you to hear players say. It is no coincidence. Juan Soto, it's tough. Everybody's aware of what we're going through, but I think the energy is still up. Hallelujah. The energy is still. What does that even mean? After a loss, the clubhouse is quiet. After a win, they play music. And after the music is done and the quiet is done, the players shower and leave like they do if you've won 20 in a row, lost 20 in a row. You're 20 games up in the wild card. You're going to lose 100 games. It's the same thing. I've done them all. Can we talk about the Cubs? We did a show in Chicago last week, Coca, which you got to see on Friday. It's a great show. Thank you to everyone who came in Chicago. I'll be in St. Louis 2 weeks from today, July 22nd. I will be in St. Louis doing a live show at City Winery, closing out the City Winery section of the Nothing Personal Live with David Samson tour. Cardinals fighting themselves back into the race. Love that. A lot of people in Chicago want to talk about Craig Counsell, the Milwaukeean, wanted to see whether or not he's become an Illinoisian, wondering why the Cubs are in last and the Brewers are in first, wondering whether Craig Counsell has anything to do with pitchers being emotional and going full Devin Williams. I promised you I'd cover it on today's show, and here we go. Colton Brewer of the Cubs broke his non-pitching hand in a furious bit of rage after an inconsistent performance that stunk, and then he hit the dugout and broke his hand. He was immediately put on the 60-day IL, and my only question is, why wasn't he immediately released? And the answer is, when he's not hitting walls, he performs. When pitchers and players are stupid and they hurt themselves and their team, if they're good, they stay. If they're bad, they're jettisoned. It's that simple. That goes for any off-field activities. The consistent nature that I like to pretend that I applied across all players because I thought that was important for the clubhouse. I thought that was important for fans. It was not a consideration. We recognized when we had good players versus bad players, and good players were able to do more than bad players. It's part of life. It's not nepotism. It's actually called, what's it based on? Results, based on intelligence, based on performance. There's a word for that. And here I am at 8:19 Eastern, or if you're watching this on the DraftKings Network, it's 10:19 Eastern, and I can't think of a word. Dang it. Craig Counsell met reporters and said, when those things happen, you know you screwed up. That was the conversation. Then there's consequences for the mistakes you make. What are the consequences? He's being paid his major league rate and getting major league service time on the major league IL. Wouldn't possibly a consequence? Meritocracy. God bless the chat on Live Nothing Personal with David Samson YouTube channel. That's the exact word that I was thinking of. I wanted to say idiocracy, but I know that's the movie with Wilson, and I knew that wasn't it, and I couldn't get from idiocracy to meritocracy. Thank you. What are the consequences Craig Counsell's talking about? Shame. Having to sit there and tell your teammates that you broke your hand because you punched the wall. Guess how much the teammates care? Zero. There's eyewash once in a while. A player will say, "How'd you do that? Why'd you do that? Can't believe you did that. You got to be smarter." Veterans take young players around and they sit and teach them. It happens rarely. It's just not this butterfly and unicorn business that people think it is, but no business is. How often in your company does someone who's been there for a long time come up to you and say, "Hey, let me show you the ropes. Let me teach you a couple things." What rookies get shown in the clubhouse is how to dress up and bring food to the bullpen. They get told where to look to make sure they're in the right BP group. I don't want to sully all veterans. There are some veterans who take special attention to rookies when those rookies are Paul Skenes or Miguel Cabrera. So my answer is about Colton Brewer. I think he's way more marginal than the Cubs do. I would have released him, designated him immediately. Send a message. Yeah, the guy's fine, not great. We're trying to have an atmosphere that could double for a Mensa convention, not for a we're idiots convention. I just don't like that he did that. Gives me absolute thought process to when it happened to my players. Self-inflicted injuries. Hate it. Waste of money, waste of time, waste of wins. What about injuries that aren't self-inflicted? So the All-Star game is going to come up on Tuesday, a week from tomorrow. Guess who's not an All-Star, if you had to guess? Just name a guy. Okay, I'll name him. Mike Trout. Do you know that Mike Trout, I saw this, all credit to whoever tweeted this on July 4th. When everyone was barbecuing barbacoa, I was on my phone. Brilliant. Mike Trout has not played on July 4th since 2019, and it's not a scheduling issue. He's hurt every single year. I wanted to give you a quick 2 minutes here about Trout, the Hall of Fame, and injuries. For those of you who think that Mike Trout has done enough to be in the Hall of Fame, I guess I would ask you to look at Don Mattingly. For those of you who think that there is nothing that can stop Mike Trout from being known as the best player in baseball during this last century, meaning since 2000, I'd like you to not just look at team performance because there are really good players on really bad teams. Mike Trout has never won a playoff game. That's better than Shohei, who's never been in a playoff game. Mike Trout's never won a playoff game. Mike Trout is injured every year. Mike Trout is someone you cannot count on to help your team win. He can't stay on the field. When he's on the field, his team can't win, and it's not for lack of payroll. It's not for lack of effort. Maybe it's for an abundance of idiocy in the front office. But whatever the case is, at some point you say to yourself, this player is not going to change. He's not the face of baseball, doesn't want to be. He's not on the field. Whether he wants to be or not is irrelevant. Doesn't want to be traded to a contender, so we understand. And I don't want to sit here and poo-poo Mike Trout because during my prime was his prime, and my God, was he good. How old is he, Coca? Right now, Trout. He's on the wrong side of 30, I have to believe. I'm going to guess 32 out of nowhere. No idea why that number came to my head. I was channeling Magic Johnson, maybe. He is 32. I'm not pretending, folks. That was an absolute guess. Oh, I'm only right for another month. He turns 33 August 7th. He'll be playing at 33. That's how he would talk about players because often when their birthday, most players have a birthday once a year. And when a player has a birthday during the off season, we say he will play at blank during 2024. When a player turns older during the season, we say, like Mike Trout is 34 in 2024. We don't give him 33, excuse me. We don't say, oh, he gets the first 4 months at 32. We go to his older age. That's not nice of us. But the reason we do it is to remind ourselves really how old a player is. So if a player's turning 33 in August, we pretend that player's 33 the whole year. And we're supposed to think about that when we're doling out these long-term contracts, when we are amortizing the later years of big contracts and how painful they're going to be for the team. You hope that the decline doesn't come till 35. Everything after 35 is a bonus without the needle. Everything before 35 is when you have to make hay. The Angels have been able to make nothing, not even straw, not even those flimsy paper straws that drive me insane at bars that melt and they can't be used because we're saving the world one plastic frickin' straw at a time. Thank God. Do you know what I do now? Side note, I travel with my own plastic straws. So when I go to a bar or wherever I am, whatever drink I'm having isn't necessarily alcohol, I say, "Excuse me, no straw for me, please." And then I whip it out, put it in the drink. No one knows the difference. Of course, people around me start to notice and they say, "That's strange. How come your straw's not melting?" The other thing that happened this weekend that no one's going to talk about because his name is Jose Miranda and he's on the Minnesota Twins, which gives us this is the Yahtzee of small market teams today. I mean, we covered the Yankees a bit, but we talked Royals. Who else did we talk? Pirates. How about the Twins? Jose Miranda. One of the things that we talk when we're talking about records, Cal Ripken's record comes up very often inside a clubhouse. The Ironman streak, the number of games, the number of seasons he played in a row, how much we value that. The Ironman that I lived with was Juan Pierre, and we were very careful to be very clear with Juan that we appreciated that he came to the park willing to play, able to play every single day. The second thing we talk about is quality at-bats. Try to avoid wasting your 1 of 3 or 1 of 4 or 1 of 5 opportunities. They're so infrequent. Don't waste them. There's a record. There have been 3 players, not any player since 1952. That's how hard this is, to get 12 hits in a row in consecutive at-bats. Now, not plate appearances, at-bats. Guess what? Jose Miranda matched the record. They cut in live. You're watching him in his 13th try to get another hit and be alone in the record books. And of course, he flew out short left field. The reason why we love this is a cool record is that it's not just that you're on a heater, because you can go 4 for 8 and be super hot. You can be 2 for 8, believe it or not, and be hot because you're hitting the ball hard, but sometimes it's at people. If you look at a dugout after a line drive, you get high fives and pats on the tuchus the same way you do when you have a single or a double or a triple. The corollary is that if you have a little duck fart into the outfield and that's a single, you still get congratulated as though you got a hit, but it's the same type of congratulations when you make an out that's hard hit. When you make an out like a strikeout, there's no celebration, there's no patting on anything. Or when you give up an at-bat by not getting the runner over when you're supposed to, hitting the ball with where you're not supposed to because you're not going with the pitch, whatever the myriad reasons are, when you give an at-bat away, we don't celebrate it. No one had gotten 12 consecutive at-bats with a hit since 52. And now we've got a guy your famous player, Jose Miranda. We love that record. I remember thinking about that record during 18 straight years. Are we there? It was that and the Don Mattingly home run record. That one was always cool to talk about. But in terms of hit streaks, fun to think about. In terms of stolen base streaks or other things that can happen during the course of a day, a week, or a month of a season, consecutive at-bat hits was one we loved. Congratulations, Mr. Miranda. All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to review the new Beverly Hills Cop. And then if you think we're not going to talk about LeBron James, then you've got another thing coming. Because today is a day in my calendar every single year. And I think about July 8th every single year. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Nothing Personal. Thanks for being here. Thanks for listening, downloading, subscribing, telling your friends. We are in Miami studio. I will be with Pablo and Dominique and the gang in about 29 minutes live on the Levitard YouTube show. But in the meantime, you get me from 8 to 8:50. And I'm still watching a movie every day, no matter what my schedule of recording is, no matter what my travel plans are, no matter what the holiday is, no matter what the weather is. And the new Beverly Hills Cop came out this weekend on Netflix. It's called Beverly Hills Cop AxelF, as in Axel Foley. Dun 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 dun. Harold Faltermeyer, nobody, nothing. Judge Reinhold, Phoebe Cates, John Ashton, Midnight Run, anybody? Is it ringing any bell? Paul Reiser, Taggart, Beverly Hills Cop, 40 years old. The first Beverly Hills Cop, 40. Here's why I didn't like the movie that everybody else liked. Some people like going home again. It feels comfortable. You see Eddie Murphy, who looks great, and you see him doing the thing he does. It's a convoluted, ridiculous script, ridiculous movie. But people feel good. They get to see the characters who they love. Don't forget that I've got the Peter Pan syndrome. I don't want to believe that I'm aging. I don't look at pictures of myself from 20 years ago. Don't want to see him. 40 years ago? Are you kidding me? As a 16-year-old? That's a hard pass. The then and now, either you're trying to hang on and you've done such a bad job with needles that you can't hang on, or you age the way everybody ages, and you're thinking to yourself, my God, that's how people are viewing me because I'm 40 years older than I was 40 years ago. I am overwhelmed with distraction. I admit this is a me thing. I do. And you may think the quality of the movie is outstanding if you've never seen any other Beverly Hills. If you don't know how cool it is to have clay on your shoes and what that means. If you don't know what it means to have a banana in your tailpipe or to have Judge Reinhold have a trunk full of weapons. Trunk full, the car trunk. If you don't know any of that, then you'll miss a few jokes. You'll be entertained maybe by a script that is ordinary to the point of being boring. Or if you love bathing, I mean, in drips of nostalgia, then you should watch it too. But if you're like me and you don't want to be reminded of the passage of time like sands through the hourglass, time after time, then don't watch it. Adam Silver, do you have the guts to investigate the Los Angeles Lakers? I'll bet you, Mortimer, that you do not. I will bet that the NBA will let this LeBron situation pass like a kidney stone. No worries, no problems. LeBron James this weekend, it was announced, took below the max from the Lakers. Way to go, LeBron. $2.7 million below the max. I have a tear in my eye. Helping the Lakers stay below the second apron so they can protect a 2032 draft pick. Way to go. I'm touched. Opening up a $12.9 million exemption. Opening up for $869. Allowing a $12.9 mid-level exception. Way to go. I'm touched. I have a tear in my eye. Give me a break. DeMar DeRozan, gone. No other players they can come up with? Guess what? None of this is related. It's all a bunch of horse hockey. Did you see that Bronny James signed a 4-year guaranteed deal as the number 55 pick? Do you think that broadcast networks are invested in the father-son duo? All you heard about on ESPN, 4-letter network, that's all you heard about was Bronny. Bronny going to the Summer League. Bronny in Vegas. Bronny feeling good about himself. Bronny loving the atmosphere. Not sure what atmosphere there is when you score 4 points on 2 of 9 shooting, but let's not let the facts get in the way of the story. And the story, as promulgated by the Lakers, is Bronny is a legit pick. He's our system. He's our man. I told you the JJ Redick crap. That was last week. But then I realized, wait a minute, the LeBron James family got more than the max. If you add up LeBron's salary plus Bronny's salary, that's more than would have just gone to LeBron. LeBron gets to be magnanimous. He gets to say that he took below the max to help out his team because he wants to win. The Lakers get to save a ton on luxury tax. They don't get in trouble. And the James family is better off than where they would be if it were just LeBron and they'd use their second-round pick on, I don't know, a person who should be a second-round pick. There is no reason in the world for LeBron James to not take the max. There's a lot of reasons I'm not offering a 39-year-old the max, but I digress. LeBron wanted to make it very clear so that the NBA had cover and wouldn't investigate. So the Lakers had cover for giving Bronny what they gave Bronny. So LeBron gave an interview at the Olympic practice saying, we are in a relationship. And anybody knows relationships knows it's all about committing. What kind of one-sided relationship is it when you are making all the decisions, but you spend time through your agent making sure everyone believes that you're not involved, not making the decisions? So if you want us to believe Rich Paul, LeBron, then what you're saying is it's not really a committed relationship. Hey, you're not involved, don't want to be involved. I don't know what's going on. On the other hand, if you're conducting the Lakers the way you conduct a family or an orchestra or work or whatever it is that you do when you're controlling and have the leverage to do it, what kind of relationship is that? Would you be committed to the same franchise if it weren't located in Los Angeles? LeBron James wants to make sure that he's not upset that Klay Thompson isn't a Laker. Not as upset as Michael Thompson. Wants to make sure you know that DeMar's a great player. Says that, hey, there's a bunch of people we had talks with, but we're going to move on and see how we continue to get better. Fabulous, LeBron. Move on with that mid-level exception. Move on with your contract below the max and move on with your son getting undeserved attention. And remember, this is not about nepotism. As you know, I'm all in. Do not think I'm inconsistent. This is a far more simple request that I had of the Lakers. Give it to me straight. Tell me exactly why you gave Bronny 7.9. LeBron, tell me. Don't give me because I want to help out my Lakers franchise by saving a 2032 pick. Give it to me. Why you took $2.7 million. Coincidence? I wonder, that's a funny coincidence that gets them for like $45,000 below an apron. It's amazing. You're such a good teammate. We're so proud to have you. The Lakers are an absolute mess. It's not good for the league. The league wants the Lakers and the Knicks to be better. Lakers, constant playoff disaster, disappointment, another COVID ring. Bringing in JJ Redick in what is the absolute joke of the offseason. JJ Redick is to coaching as Bronny is to playing in the NBA. But don't worry, we're not going to tell anyone that. We're going to very quietly bring in Nate McMillan and Scott Brooks to be his assistants. It's too good to be true. Bringing in two unbelievably experienced, accomplished veteran coaches to be his top assistants. What I can't wait to do, and we're going to do it together when Lakers games start in earnest, because I watch this. It's part of the geek in me, but it's fun. I watch during timeouts who's talking, who's not. I watch during the coaches huddle. That's a new thing in the NBA. It's funny. You don't go right into the timeout and talk to players. And the reason is that psychologists have told us the players aren't listening to you. You have to do it in like 30-second increments, like they're your 8-year-old. 30 seconds is all. All this great mic'd up stuff in the NBA. Hey, we got to really be strong on the boards. We got to keep pushing, keep doing it. Yeah. Meanwhile, the coaches are in a huddle at midcourt for the first minute and a half of the timeout, and they're drawing up this and they're drawing up that. For what? You don't even show it to the players. But what I watch during those huddles is who's talking, who's paying attention. And I'm not saying that people who don't have experience shouldn't get opportunities. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying when you have no experience and you get an opportunity, at least acknowledge it. And I don't mean in the normal press conference, oh, I think it's obvious I haven't coached anything but my 4U. No, LeBron had nothing to do with it. That's really why I have a red butt about this. The line coming out of the Lakers, it doesn't stop. Nothing. Personal pick of the day. We had a pick way back on Wednesday. We had the Astros beating the Blue Jays. They did. We won it. During the break, we did not pick a Corbin game. We totally missed it on Wednesday. We should have had that pick in. If you went against Corbin, guess what? The Cardinals beat Corbin in 11 innings. You would have won again. The Nationals are not a bad team. Can someone explain to me in Washington, anyone in the front office, please, how it is that you continue to give starts to Patrick Corbin? I'm just throwing it out there. We already know it's a horrible contract. Anyway, we're going to keep following it. All right, tonight, we got the Braves over the reigning National League pennant winners, Diamondbacks. One of the all-star pitchers named is Chris Sale. He's pitching tonight for the Braves. I want to talk about this because I was extremely against the Chris Sale extension that Atlanta signed. We'll see how it turns out at the end, but for the first half of this season, it's been a brilliant move by Alex Anthopoulos, who deserves the benefit of every doubt that I could possibly give in a sea of doubt. Chris Sale is minus 185 over those aforementioned D-backs, and we're riding with Chris Sale. He's been unhittable. He's throwing with command. All of his pitches all of a sudden are sharp and working in a way they weren't with Boston. Maybe I could just say he's not injured now, and he somehow is able to come back, and he's not young. What is Chris Sale, Coca? 35? He's got to be 35, 36. And the fact that he's having a healthy year, quite impressed with that. So that's what we're doing. We're taking Chris Sale over the Diamondbacks. Anyone remember Inside the NBA with Ahmad Rashad and Willow Bay? That's a show from my childhood. It used to be an ancillary program when the NBA, when its rights were on NBC, I think. Maybe it wasn't called Inside the NBA, because that's what the TNT show is called with Barkley. Inside, well, whatever. Willow Bay and Ahmad Rashad had a show. Willow Bay is an accomplished sportscaster, an accomplished anchor. I believe she's now the dean of a journalism school. NBA inside stuff. Way to go, Coca. Did you know that off the top of your head by any chance? Or did you just look at it? You had never heard of it? Inside Stuff was a really good show with Rashad and Willow Bay. Did you get me Chris Sale's age while you were doing Inside Stuff? Very good. Anyway, Inside Stuff had Willow Bay. Willow Bay left Inside Stuff and had a very accomplished career. She is married to Bob Iger. Yes, that Bob Iger. Bob Iger, the CEO of Disney. That Bob Iger, who left Disney, came back to Disney, may leave Disney again, but can't find anyone to succeed him, makes a ton of money while the Disney stock basically is in the crapper. That Bob Iger. News came out this weekend that Bob Iger, along with Willow Bay, are buying a sports team. I love that. They're getting into big leagues in the NWSL. They are looking at buying Angel City FC. They're buying it from Reddit's co-founder at a valuation that we don't know yet, but it looks to be between $250 and $300 million for an NWSL team. For a league that's had nothing but problems. No increased asset valuation. They've tried expansion, and all they end up with is investigation. The very same weekend that this should have been celebrated, that they found people willing to invest at a rate that is mind-boggling and not based on revenue, not based on anything other than maybe teams are so out of reach in other leagues that this is now the trickle-down. Thank you, trickle-down economics. Maybe that's what we're seeing. But I got big news for you. For Iger and Bay to invest at this valuation, the reason why I'm concerned about it is that if you can't write a check, and I'm not saying Iger can't because you see in the disclosure what his annual pay is. Willow Bay also successful. We don't exactly know the percentage yet. We don't know anything. But what we do know is that if you're buying 50% of a team at $300 million valuation and there's no purchase price adjustments and no debt on the team, you're writing a check for $150 million. And that's on the high side because there are purchase price adjustments and there is debt on just about every team. But let's just pretend they're writing a $150 million check. The odds are they're not taking it from their Bomber bank account and they're borrowing the money. When they borrow the money, they go to the bank and they go through the projections of the team, and the investment bankers and the wealth management people look at the projections. They massage them. They move them around. They test them. And then they come to a conclusion. Yes, we will lend you money to build that stadium in Miami. It's going to work perfectly. It's actually how it goes. The banks have to give the approval to borrow the money because they say it makes perfect sense that there is this valuation on an NWSL team. I mean, Iger makes money. His last filing, he got paid $31 million, but that includes a bunch of money in stock that has to vest. You pay taxes on things. There's no doubt in my mind that he is wealthy and doing fine. I'm not playing a violin for Iger. I'm saying they had to go to a bank, and now the banks are saying the NWSL is somewhere. And it's the same weekend that another team in the NWSL is fighting off allegations of misconduct, terrible misconduct. We're talking about the San Diego Wave. If you didn't read about Jill Ellis, you should. Allegations against her, poor working environment, etc. They're claiming there's nothing to see here, like we all do. It's all fine. And if there was anything, I had nothing to do with it. Ellis had to release a statement, and she released it because there was a social media post written by a former video member of the team. Basically, this person was saying Jill Ellis needs to be removed. The workplace is discriminatory. Outrageous. So Jill Ellis said what you're supposed to say. Mental health, priorities, it's a priority. We have support measures. We have employee assistance programs. Allegations of mistreatment are false. They were investigated. We had independent third parties, Samson and Coca, investigate all of these things, and we were fine. To the point where even Alex Morgan, the player who didn't make the Olympic team, who's a famous player on the Wave, she had to release a statement saying how hard players work, what a great environment it is, how sad it is that this is all happening. And I was struck, absolutely struck, by the dichotomy of a huge investment in one team, another team hanging on for dear life. I think Iger and Bay got together and said to the bank, hey, listen, forget San Diego. We're Angel City. It's just business. This is nothing personal.